Good evening and welcome to the 5 o'clock news. I'm Mike McDonald.
And I'm Colette Linden.
A federal agency that monitors brewing online threats warns that fraudsters are dangling COVID-19 related content to fool victims into clicking on malicious links and attachments. In a report today, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity says online tricksters know people are anxious about the future and are less likely to act prudently when they see emails, text messages, or advertisements related to the pandemic. The centre says COVID-19 lures often attempt to imitate the branding and style of legitimate institutions such as international organizations and public health agencies. It notes that cyber threat actors can produce convincing copies of government websites and official correspondence. The report, the center's latest look at the overall cyber threat landscape, says the COVID-19 pandemic has illustrated the extent to which the Canadian economy is reliant upon digital infrastructure. Canadians will have to wait a little while longer to see the federal government's plan for the development of small nuclear reactors, seen by proponents as critical to the country's fight against global warming. Small modular reactors, or SMRs, are smaller in size and energy output than traditional nuclear power units and more flexible in their deployment. While conventional reactors produce around 800 megawatts of power, SMRs can deliver up to 300 megawatts. Proponents consider them ideal as both part of the regular electricity grid as well as for use in remote locations, including industrial sites and isolated northern communities. They could also play a role in the production of hydrogen and local heating. Industry critics were quick to pounce on the government's expected SMR announcement. They called on Ottawa to halt its plans to fund the experimental technology. While nuclear power generation produces no greenhouse gas emissions, a major problem facing the industry is its growing mound of radioactive waste.
Though Republican legislators have been critical of Governor Whitmer's announcement on Sunday enacting new coronavirus restrictions, it is still unclear when any of the legislators' proposed alternatives will come to fruition. Late last week, with COVID-19 numbers escalating rapidly in nearly all regions of the state, lawmakers from northern Michigan were still focusing on personal responsibility, or at the very least, a decentralized approach, giving counties more ability to set their own standards based on the severity of cases in their area. In interviews late last week prior to Whitmer's announcement, Cole and State Senator Wayne Schmidt encouraged citizens to take necessary precautions, especially during the proven measures of wearing a mask while in public, social distancing, and washing hands. But they fell short of calling for a stronger mask mandate, which Whitmer has urged legislators to enact, calling it the best weapon they have against the common enemy. The Health Department of Northwest Michigan confirms that masking is the most effective preventive. The Toronto Raptors are seeking exemption from 14-day quarantine to play out season from home. The Canadian government is reviewing a proposal from the NBA and the Raptors to play in Toronto amid the pandemic. Tuesday, a spokesman for Health Minister Patty Hajdu said officials have been in contact with the Raptors and will continue to engage with them in the coming weeks. The Raptors and the NBA need an exemption to a requirement that anyone entering Canada for non-essential reasons must self-isolate for 14 days. The U.S.-Canada border remains closed to non-essential travel. The federal government denied the Blue Jays' request to play in Toronto earlier this year because health officials did not think it was safe for players to travel back and forth from the U.S. The Blue Jays failed to persuade the federal government to grant exemptions and played home games in Buffalo this year. 2 cities in Florida, Tampa, and Fort Lauderdale, along with Nashville, have been reported as potential designations for the Raptors. The Canadian government requires a...
NDP ethics critic Charlie Angus is asking the Federal Ethics Commissioner to consider new questions about the relationship between former Finance Minister Bill Morneau and We Charity. In a letter to Commissioner Mario Dion, Angus says Morneau may have broken rules around conflict of interest and preferential treatment in allegedly green-lighting a $12 million contract for We, one that never got final cabinet approval, shortly after co-founder Craig Kielburger emailed Morneau about a youth entrepreneurship program in April. Angus says the familiar tone of the email and connections between Kielburger and Morneau's family speak to a close relationship that should have led Morneau to recuse himself from decisions on the contract. Dion said in a reply to Angus, he has already brought the matter to Morneau's attention in the Ethics Commissioner's ongoing investigation into the ex-finance minister's and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's roles in choosing We to manage a separate student volunteering program for $43.5 million. Stay tuned, your local weather forecast is up next.
For all those times.
Every 3 seconds, someone will develop Alzheimer's, a fatal disease that steals your memories and makes you forget the people you love most. Fortunately, there is hope. Today, researchers believe a cure is just a few years away.
It's okay, Daddy, you can go. Just go.
For just $9 a month, you can fund research for a cure and make history by ending this disease.
Canada United is a movement to show local businesses some love. Right now, they could use our support more than ever. So we're asking Canadians to buy local and spread the word. And every time you watch our videos or like our posts, we'll contribute 5 cents to small business relief, starting with this video. So keep watching and tell your friends, because buying local can make a big impact. And small actions can too. Canada United. Together we can make a difference.
The country's headline inflation meter jumped last month by 0.7% compared to 1 year ago, the fastest the consumer price index has risen in months, largely on the back of higher food prices. October's increase compared with a year-over-year rise of 0.5% in September. Stats Canada reports the increase was almost entirely driven by rising food prices, particularly lettuce and fresh or frozen chicken. The 25.6% annualized increase in the former was largely a result of supply issues. The 2.4% growth in the latter had more to do with uncertainty in the food service industry, which continues to feel the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sudbury police say 2 people are dead following a 3-vehicle crash on Tuesday night. It happened on Elm Street in between Big Nickel Mine Road and the LaSalle Extension. Police say a 40-year-old woman was found dead at the scene. A 55-year-old man was taken to hospital where he died, and a 42-year-old man has non-life-threatening injuries. The road was closed for several hours overnight as police investigated and crews cleaned up a diesel fuel spill. Police say the road has since reopened. Yesterday, a discrepancy in gas prices had many scratching their heads in disbelief. The Circle K and Petro-Canada gas stations located on Great Northern Road and 3rd Line advertised a gas price of $8.9 per litre for unleaded. Down the street at the Shell Flying J station at Great Northern and 2nd Line, you could fill up with unleaded for only 99.9 cents per litre. On TV reporters are looking into this, and we will have more details available shortly.
The Canada-U.S. border is set to remain closed well into December. A federal source speaking on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to comment publicly confirmed the 30-day rollover of the closure that was set to expire on Friday. Visits such as vacations, day trips, and cross-border shopping excursions have been forbidden since March in an effort to limit the spread of the novel coronavirus. The mutual restrictions have been jointly extended on a monthly basis by the two countries ever since they were first imposed. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said the ban will not be eased until there's clear evidence the COVID-19 pandemic is slowing in the United States, which it is clearly not.
Rising COVID-19 cases, including inside Canadian schools, are sparking debate about the potential for another widespread school shutdown, with some proposing extensions to the upcoming holiday break. But determining if and when schools should close and for how long remains a moving target. As of Wednesday, Nunavut becomes the first among Canada's provinces and territories to shut schools across the board once again. All the territories' classrooms are closed for at least 2 weeks, with teachers delivering instruction remotely after its COVID-19 caseload more than doubled from a day earlier to a high of 60 cases on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the premiers of Manitoba and Quebec have acknowledged they're considering extending the upcoming school holiday beyond the 2 weeks already scheduled. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who on Monday called closing in-person schools again the last resort, cautioned against assuming an extended winter break is inevitable at his daily news briefing on Tuesday.
I'm Mike McDonald.
And I'm Colette Linden.
And that was your first local 5 o'clock news.